the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Udyoga Parva. Section 111, Bhagavat Parva. Gadura said, O Brahmanas, since this quarter saveth from sin, and since one attaineth to salvation here, it is for this saving, Uttarana, power that it is called the north, Uta. And O Galava, because the abode of all the treasures of the north stretches in a line towards the east and the west, therefore is the north sometimes called the central region, Madhyama. And, O bull among the twice born, in this region that is superior to all, none can live that is unamiable, or of unbridled passions, or unrighteous. Hither, in the asylum known by the name of Vadri, eternally dwell Krishna, who is Narayana's self, and Jishnu, that most exalted of all male beings, and Brahman, the creator. Hither, on the breast of Himavat, always dwelleth Maheswara, endued with the effulgence of the fire that blazeth up at the end of the Yuga. As Purusha, he sporteth here with Prakriti, the universal mother. Except by Nara and Narayana, he is incapable of being seen by the diverse classes of Munis, the gods with Vasava at their head, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, and the Siddhas. Though invested with Maya, him the eternal Vishnu alone, of 1,000 heads and 1,000 legs, can behold. It was in this region that Chandramas, the moon, was installed into the sovereignty of the entire regenerate order. It was in this region, O thou foremost of all acquainted with Brahma, that Mahadeva, first receiving her on his head, afterwards let the sacred stream Ganga fall from the heavens to the world of men. It was here that the goddess Uma underwent her ascetic austerities from her desire of obtaining Maheswara as her lord. It was in this region that Karna, the wrath of Siva, Himavat, and Uma, all together shone brilliantly. It was here, on the breast of Kailasa, O Galava, that Kuvara was installed on the sovereignty of the Rakshasas, the Yakshas, and the Gandharvas. It is in this region that Kuvara's gardens called Chaitraratha lie, and it is here that the asylum of the Munis called the Vikhanasas is situated. It is here, O bull among the twice born, that the celestial stream called Mandakini, and the mountain Mandra are to be seen. It is here that the gardens called Sogandhi Kanaka are always guarded by the Rakshasas. Here are many plains covered with grassy verdure, as also the plantain forest, and those celestial trees called the Sautanakas. It is in this region, O Galava, that the Siddhas, with souls ever under control and always sporting at will, have their fit abodes, abounding with every object of enjoyment. It is here that the 7 rishis with Arundhati may be seen. It is here that the constellation Swati is to be seen, and it is here that it first rises to the view. It is in this region that the grandsire Brahman dwelleth in the vicinity of Yajna, sacrifice embodied. It is in this quarter that the sun, the moon, and the other luminaries are seen to revolve regularly. It is in this region, O foremost of Brahmanas, that those illustrious and truth-speaking Munis called by the name of Dharma, guard the source of the Ganges. The origin and physical features and ascetic penances of these Munis are not known to all. The 1,000 dishes they use for serving the food offered in hospitality, and the edibles also they create at will, are all a mystery. The man, O Galava, that passeth beyond the point guarded by these Munis, is certain, O foremost of Brahmanas, to meet with destruction. None else, O bull among Brahmanas, save the divine Narayana, and the eternal Nara called also Jishnu, succeeded in passing beyond the points so guarded. It is in this region that the mountains of Kailasa lie, the abode of Elavila, Kuvara. It was here that the 10 Apsaras known by the name of Vidyutprabha had their origin. In covering, O Brahmana, the 3 worlds with 3 steps in the sacrifice of Bali, the Asura king, Vishnu had covered this whole northern region, and, accordingly, there is a spot here called Vishnupada. And it is so called after the footprint of Vishnu caused on that occasion. Here in this quarter, at a place called Usiravija, by the side of the Golden Lake, King Marutha performed, O foremost of Brahmanas, a sacrifice. It is here that the brilliant and shining gold mines of Himavat exhibit themselves to the illustrious and regenerate Rishi Jamyuta. And Jamyuta gave away the whole of that wealth to the Brahmanas. And having given it away, that great Rishi solicited them to call it after his own name. And hence, that wealth is known by the name of the Jamyuta gold. Here, in this region, O bull among Bharatas, the regents of the worlds, O Galava, every morning and evening proclaim, what business of what person shall we do? It is for these, O foremost of Brahmanas, and other incidents, that the northern region is superior to all quarters. And because this region is superior, Uta, to all, therefore, it is called the North, Uta. The four regions have thus, O sire, been one after another described to thee in details. Towards which quarter then dost thou desire to go? I am ready, O foremost of Brahmanas, to show thee all the quarters of the earth. Thus ends the 111th section in the Bhagavat-yana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 112, Bhagavat-yana Parva. Galava said, O Gadura, O slayer of foremost snakes, O thou of beautiful feathers, O son of Vinata, carry me, O Takya, to the east where the two eyes of Dharma are first opened. O take me to the east which thou hast first described, and whither thou hast said the gods are always present. Thou hast said that thither both truth and virtue reside. I desire to meet all the gods. Therefore, O younger brother of Aruna, take me thither so that I may behold the gods. Narada continued, thus addressed, the son of Vinata replied unto that Brahmana saying, Mount thou on my back. And thereupon, the Muni Galava rode on the back of Gadura. And Galava said, Thy beauty, O devourer of snakes, as thou proceedest, seemeth to be like that of the sun himself in the morning, that maker of the day endued with 1,000 rays. And O ranger of the skies, thy speed is so great that the very trees broken by the storm caused by the flapping of thy wings seem to pursue thee in the course. Thou seemest, O tenant of the welkin, to drag by the storm caused by thy wings, the very earth with all the waters of her oceans, and with all her mountains, woods and forests. Indeed, the tempest caused by the motion of thy wings seems to continually raise into mid-air the waters of the sea, with all their fishes and snakes and crocodiles. I see fishes possessed of similar faces, and Timis and Timingilas and snakes endued with human faces, all crushed by the tempest raised by thy wings. My ears are deafened by the roar of the deep. So stunned am I that I can neither hear nor see anything. Indeed, I have forgotten my own purpose. Slacken thy speed, O ranger of the sky, remembering the risk to a Brahmana's life. O sire, neither the sun nor the cardinal points, nor the welkin itself is any longer perceptible to me. I see only a thick gloom around me. The body is no longer visible to me. I see only two eyes, O oviparous being, resembling two radiant gems. I cannot see either thy body or my own. At every step, I behold sparks of fire emitted from thy frame. Stop without delay these sparks of fire and extinguish the dazzling radiance of thy eyes. O son of Vinata, slacken this exceeding speed of thy course. O devourer of snakes, I have no business to go with thee. Desist, O blessed one, I am unable to bear this speed of thine. I have promised to give my preceptor 800 white steeds of lunar effulgence, each having 1 ear black in hue. I see no way, O oviparous being, of fulfilling my pledge. There is but one way that I can see, and that is to lay down my own life. I have no wealth of my own nor any wealthy friend, nor can wealth, however remains, procure the accomplishment of my object. Narada continued, unto Galava uttering these and many other words of entreaty and sorrow, the son of Vinata, without slackening his speed, laughingly replied saying, Thou hast little wisdom, O regenerate Rishi, since thou wishest to put an end to thy own life. Death can never be brought about by one's effort. Indeed, death is God himself. Why didst thou not before this inform me of thy purpose? There are excellent means by which all this may be accomplished. Here is this mountain called Rishabha on the seaside. Resting here for some time and refreshing ourselves with food, I will, O Galava, return. Thus ends the 112th section in the Bhagavatayana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 113, Bhagavatayana Parva. Narada said, alighting then on the peak of the Rishabha, the Brahmana and the bird beheld a Brahmana lady of the name of Sandali, engaged there in ascetic penances. And Galava and Gadura both saluted her by bending their heads and worshipped her. And thereupon the lady inquired after their welfare and gave them seats. And having taken their seats, both of them took the cooked food the lady offered them, after having first dedicated it to the gods with mantras. And having taken that food, they laid themselves down on the ground and fell into a profound sleep. And Gadura, from desire of leaving that place, upon awaking found that his wings had fallen off. Indeed he had become like a ball of flesh, with only his head and legs. And beholding him come to that plight, Galava sorrowfully inquired saying, What is this condition that has overtaken thee as the consequence of thy sojourn here? Alas, how long shall we have to reside here? Hadst thou harbored any evil and sinful thought in thy mind? It cannot, I am sure, be any trivial sin of which thou hast been guilty. Thus addressed, Gadura replied unto the Brahmana saying, Indeed, O regenerate one, I entertained the thought of carrying away this lady crowned with ascetic success from this spot to where the Creator himself, the divine Mahadeva, the eternal Vishnu and both virtue and sacrifice personified live together, for as I thought this lady should live there. I shall now, from desire of doing myself good, prostrate myself before this holy lady and pray unto her saying, with a heart full of pity, I had indeed entertained such a thought. Whether I acted rightly or wrongly, even this was the wish, evidently against thy own, that was cherished by me from my respect for thee. It behoveth thee therefore to grant me forgiveness from the nobility of thy heart. That lady became gratified with that prince of birds and that bull of Brahmanas. And addressing Gadura she said, Fear not, O thou of beautiful feathers. Resume thy wings and cast off thy fears. I was contempt by thee, but know that I do not pardon contempt. That sinful being who entertains contempt for me, would speedily fall away from all blissful regions. Without a single inauspicious indication about me and perfectly blameless as I am, I have in consequence of the purity of my conduct attained to high ascetic success. Purity of conduct beareth virtue as its fruit. Purity of conduct beareth wealth as its fruit. It is purity of conduct that bringeth on prosperity. And it is purity of conduct that driveth away all inauspicious indications. Go thou, O blessed prince of birds, whithersoever thou wishest from this place. Never entertain contempt for me, and take care that thou dost not contempt women that may even be truly blamable. Thou shalt again be as before, invested with both strength and energy. At these words of that lady, Gadura had his wings again and they became even stronger than before. And then with Sandali's leave, Gadura with Galava on his back took his departure. But they failed to find the kind of steeds they were in search of. And it so happened that Viswamitra met Galava on the way. And thereupon that foremost of speakers addressed Galava in the presence of Vinata's son and said, O regenerate one, the time is already come when thou shouldst give me the wealth thou hadst promised me of thy own accord. I do not know what thou mayst. I have waited so long. I will wait for some time more. Seek thou the way by which thou mayst succeed in the matter of thy promise. Hearing these words, Gadura addressed cheerless Galava, who was overwhelmed with sorrow, saying, What Viswamitra said unto thee before hath now been repeated in my presence. Come therefore, O best of Brahmanas, we will, Galava, deliberate on the matter. Without giving thy preceptor the whole of the wealth promised by thee, thou canst not even sit down. Thus ends the 113th section in the Bhagavat-yana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 114, Bhagavat-yana Parva. Narada said, Gadura then, that foremost of winged beings, addressed the cheerless Galava and said, Because it is created by Agni, in the bowels of the earth and augmented by Vayu, and because also the earth itself is said to be Hiranmaya, therefore is wealth called Hiranya. And because wealth supports the world and sustains life, therefore it is called Dhana. It is for serving these ends that Dhana, wealth, exists from the beginning in the three worlds. On that Friday, when either of the two constellations, the Purvabhadra or the Uttarabhadra, is ascendant, Agni, creating wealth by a fiat of his will, bestoweth it on mankind for the increase of Kuvara's stock. The wealth that is emboweled in the earth is guarded by the deities called the Ajikapates and the Ahivradnas, and also by Kuvara. Exceedingly difficult of attainment, that wealth therefore, O bull among Brahmanas, is rarely attained. Without wealth there is no chance of thy acquisition of the promised steeds. Beg thou therefore of some king born in the race of some royal sage, who may, without oppressing his subjects, crown our suit with success. There is a king born in the lunar race that is my friend. We shall go to him, for he amongst all on earth, hath great wealth. That royal sage is known by the name of Yayati, and he is the son of Nahusha. His prowess is incapable of being baffled. Solicited by thee in person, and urged by me, he will give what we seek, for he hath immense wealth, equal unto what belongeth to Kuvara, the Lord of treasures. Even thus, by accepting a gift, O learned one, pay off thy debt to thy preceptor. Talking thus and thinking upon what was best to be done, Gadura and Galava together went to King Yayati, who was then in his capital called Pratisthana. The king received them hospitably and gave them excellent arga and water to wash their feet. And the king then asked them the cause of their advent. And thereupon Gadura answered, saying, O son of Nahusha, this ocean of asceticism called Galava, is my friend. He had been, O monarch, a disciple of Viswamitra for many thousand years. This holy Brahmana, when commanded by Viswamitra to go away whithersoever he chose, addressed his preceptor at that time, saying, I desire to give something as preceptor's fee. Knowing this one's resources to be poor, Viswamitra did not ask for anything. But when he was repeatedly addressed by this Brahmana on the subject of the tutorial fee, the preceptor, under a slight accession of wrath, said, Give me 800 white steeds of good pedigree and of lunar radiance, and each having 1 ear black in hue. If, O Galava, thou desirest to give anything to thy preceptor, let this then be given. It was thus that Viswamitra, endued with wealth of asceticism, said unto him in anger, And this bull among Brahmanas is on that account smarting with great grief. Unable to fulfill that command of his preceptor, he hath now come to take thy shelter. O tiger among men, accepting this as psalms from thee and filled once more with cheerfulness, he will, after paying his preceptor's debt, devote himself again to serve ascetic penances. A royal rishi as thou art, and therefore endued with wealth of asceticism of thy own, this Brahmana, by giving thee a portion of his wealth of asceticism, will make thee richer in wealth of that kind. As many hairs, O Lord of men, as there are on a horse's body, so many regions of bliss, O ruler of earth, are attained by him that giveth away a horse in gift. This one is as fit to accept a gift as thou art to make a gift. Let therefore thy gift in this instance be like milk deposited in a conch shell. Thus ends the 114th section in the Bhagavat-yana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 115, Bhagavat-yana Parva. Narada said, thus addressed by Suparna in excellent words fraught with truth, that performer of 1,000 sacrifices, that foremost of givers, that liberal ruler of all the Kasis, the Lord Yayati, revolving those words in his mind, and reflecting on them coolly, and seeing before him his dear friend, Taksha, and that bull among Brahmanas Galava, and regarding the alms sought as an indication, highly praiseworthy of Galava's ascetic merit, and in view, particularly of the fact that those two came to him having passed over all the kings of the solar race, said, blessed is my life today, and the race also in which I am born. I hath indeed been blessed today. This very province also of mine hath equally been blessed by thee, O sinless Taksha. There is one thing, however, O friend, that I desire to say unto thee, and that is, I am not so rich now as thou thinkest, for my wealth hath suffered a great diminution. I cannot, however, O ranger of the skies, make thy advent here a fruitless one. Nor can I venture to frustrate the hopes entertained by this regenerate rishi. I shall therefore give him that which will accomplish his purpose. If one having come for alms returneth disappointed, he may consume the host's race. O son of Vinata, it is said that there is no act more sinful than that of saying, I have nothing, and thus destroying the hope of one that cometh, saying, give. The disappointed man whose hopes have been killed and his object not accomplished, can destroy the sons and grandsons of the person that faileth to do him good. Therefore, O Galava, take thou this daughter of mine, this perpetrator of 4 families. In beauty, she resembleth the daughter of the celestials. She is capable of prompting every virtue. Indeed, owing to her beauty, she is always solicited at my hands by gods and men and asuras. Let alone twice 400 steeds each with a black ear, the kings of the earth will give away their whole kingdoms as her dower. Take thou therefore this daughter of mine, named Madhavi. My sole desire is that I may have a daughter's son by her. Accepting that daughter in gift, Galava then with Gadura went away, saying, we will again see thee. And they took that maiden with them. And Galava's oviparous friend addressed him, saying, the means have at last been obtained whereby the steeds may be obtained, and saying this, Gadura went away to his own abode, having obtained Galava's permission. And after the prince of birds had gone, Galava, with that maiden in his company, began to think of going to some one among the kings who would be able to give fit dower for the maiden. And he first thought of that best of kings, Haryasva of Ikshaku's race, who ruled at Ayodhya, was endued with great energy, possessed of a large army consisting of 4 kinds of forces, had a well-filled treasury and abundance of corn, and who was dearly loved by his subjects, and who loved the Brahmanas well. Desirous of offspring, he was living in quiet and peace, and engaged in excellent austerities. And the Brahmana Galava, repairing unto Haryasva, said, this maiden, O king of kings, will increase the family of her husband by bringing forth offspring. Accept her from me, O Haryasva, as thy wife, by giving me a dower. I will tell thee what dower thou shalt have to give, hearing it, settle what thou shalt do. Thus ends the 115th section in the Bhagavat-yana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 116, Bhagavat-yana Parva. Narada said, that best of monarchs, King Haryasva, after reflecting for a long while and breathing a long and hot sigh about the birth of a son, at last said, those 6 limbs that ought to be high are high in this maiden. Those 7 again that ought to be slender are slender in her. Those 3 again, which ought to be deep are deep in her. And lastly, those 5 that ought to be read are read in her. It seems that she is worth being looked at by even the gods and the asuras, and is accomplished in all the arts and sciences. Possessed of all auspicious signs, she will certainly bring forth many children. She is even capable of bringing forth a son who may become an emperor. Having regard to my wealth, tell me, O foremost of Brahmanas, what should be her dower? Galava said, give me 800 steeds, born in a good country, of lunar whiteness and each with 1 ear black in hue. This auspicious and large-eyed maiden will then become the mother of thy sons, like the fire stick becoming the genitrix of fire. Narada continued, hearing these words, that royal sage, King Haryasva, filled with sorrow but blinded by lust, addressed Galava, that foremost of rishis, saying, I have only 200 steeds about me of the kind wanted by thee, although of other kinds all worthy of sacrifice, I have many thousand moving about in my dominions. O Galava, I desire to beget only 1 son upon this damsel. Kindly grant this request of mine. Hearing these words of the king, that damsel said unto Galava, a reciter of Brahma granted me a boon that I would after each delivery, be a maiden again. Give me away therefore to this king, accepting his excellent steeds. In this way, full 800 steeds may be obtained by thee from 4 kings in succession, and I also may have 4 sons. Collect thou the wealth intended for thy preceptor in this way. Even this is what I think. It depends however on thee, O Brahmana, as to how thou shouldst act. Thus addressed by that maiden, the Muni Galava said these words unto King Haryasva, O Haryasva, O best of men, accept this damsel for a 4th part of the dower that I have settled, and beget only 1 son upon her. Taking then that maiden and worshipping Galava, the king in due time and place had by her a son of the kind wished for. And the son so born came to be called by the name of Vasumanas. Richer than all the wealthy kings of the earth and resembling one of the Vasus themselves, he became a king and giver of great wealth. After some time, intelligent Galava came back, and approaching the delighted Haryasva said unto him, Thou hast, O king, obtained a son. Indeed, this child is like the sun himself in splendor. The time hath come, O foremost of men, for me to go to some other king for alms. Hearing these words, Haryasva, who was ever truthful in speech and steady in acts of manliness, and remembering that the balance of 600 steeds could not be made up by him, gave Madhavi back to Galava. And Madhavi also, abandoning that blazing kingly prosperity, and once more becoming a maiden, followed the footsteps of Galava. And Galava too, saying, Let the steeds remain with thee, then went, accompanied by the maiden, to King Divodasa. Thus ends the 116th section in the Bhagavat-yana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 117, Bhagavat-yana Parva. Narada said, Galava then, addressing Madhavi, said, The ruler of the Kasis is an illustrious king known by the name of Divodasa. He is the son of Bhimasena, is endued with great prowess, and is a mighty sovereign. O blessed maiden, we are now going to him. Follow me lowly and grieve not. That ruler of men is virtuous and devoted to truth, and hath his passions under control. Narada continued, When the Muni came before that king, he was received with due hospitality by the latter. Galava then began to urge the monarch for begetting a child. Thus addressed, Divodasa said, I heard of all this before. Thou needest not speak much, O Brahmana. I may tell thee, O best of Brahmanas, that as soon as I heard of this matter, my heart was set upon it. This also is mark of great honor to me, that passing over all other kings thou hast come to me. Without doubt, thy object will be gained. In the matter of the steeds, O Galava, my wealth is like that of King Haryasva. I shall therefore beget only 1 royal son upon this maiden. Hearing these words, that best of Brahmanas gave that damsel unto the king, and the king thereupon duly wedded her. And the royal sage then sported with her, as Surya with Prabhavati, Agni with Swaha, Vasava with Sachi, Chandra with Rohini, Yama with Umila, Varuna with Gauri, Kuvara with Riddhi, Narayana with Lakshmi, Sagara with Jahnavi, Rudra with Rudrani, the grandsire with Saraswati, Vasistha's son Saktri with Adrisyanti, Vasistha with Arundhati, called also Akshamala, Chyavana with Sukanya, Pulastya with Sandhya, Agastya with the princess of Vidarbha, Lopamudrai, Satyavat with Savitri, Brigu with Puloma, Kesyapa with Aditi, Richika's son Jamdagni with Renuka, Kusika's son Viswamitra with Himavati, Vrihaspati with Tara, Sukra with Sataprava, Bhumipeti with Bhumi, Pururavas with Urvasi, Richika with Satyavati, Manu with Saraswati, Dashmanta with Sakuntala, the eternal Dharma with Dhriti, Nala with Damayanti, Nada with Satyavati, Jaratkaru with Jaratkaru, Pulastya with Pratisha, Purnayus with Menaka, Tamvyuru with Rambha, Vasuki with Satasesha, Dhananjaya with Karnari, Rama with the princess of Vaidha Sita, or Janardana with Rukmani. And unto King Divodasa, thus sporting with and taking delight in her, Madhavi bore a son named Pratardana. And after she had borne him a son, the holy Galava came to Divodasa at the appointed time and said unto him, Let the maiden come with me, and let the steeds also thou art to give me remain with thee, for I desire to go elsewhere, O ruler of earth, for dower. Thus addressed, the virtuous King Divodasa, who was devoted to truth, thereupon gave back the maiden to Galava at the appointed time. Thus ends the 117th section in the Bhagavat-yana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 118, Bhagavat-yana Parva. Narada said, the illustrious Madhavi, faithful to her promise, abandoning that prosperity and once more becoming a maiden, followed the footsteps of the Brahmana Galava. And Galava, whose heart was set upon the accomplishment of his own business, reflecting upon what he should do next, then went to the city of the Bhojas for waiting upon King Usinara. And arrived before that king of unbaffled prowess, Galava addressed him saying, This maiden will bear thee 2 royal sons. And, O king, begetting upon her 2 sons equal unto the sun and the moon, thou mayst attain all thy objects both here and thereafter. As her dower, however, O thou that art conversant with every duty, thou shalt have to give me 400 steeds of lunar splendor, each having 1 ear black of hue. This effort of mine for obtaining the steeds is only on account of my preceptor, otherwise I myself have nothing to do with them. If thou art able to accept my terms, do as I bid thee without any hesitation. O royal sage, thou art now childless. Beget, O king, a couple of children. With offspring so begot as a raft, save thy P3s and thyself also. O royal sage, he that hath fruit in the shape of offspring to enjoy, never falleth from heaven. Nor hath such a person to go to that frightful hell whither the childless are doomed to go. Hearing these and other words of Galava, King Usinara replied unto him saying, I have heard what thou, O Galava, hast said. My heart also is inclined to do thy bidding. The supreme ordainer, however, is all-powerful. I have only 200 steeds of the kind indicated by thee, O best of Brahmanas. Of other kinds I have many thousands moving about in my dominions. I will, O Galava, beget only 1 son upon her, by treading the path that hath been trod by others such as Haryasva and Divodasa. I will act after their manner in the matter of the dower. O best of Brahmanas, my wealth exists for only my subjects residing in the city and the country, and not for my own comforts and enjoyment. That king, O virtuous one, who giveth away, for his own pleasure, the wealth that belongeth to others, can never earn virtue or fame. Let this maiden, endued with the radiance of a celestial girl, be presented to me. I will accept her for begetting only one child." Hearing these and many other words that Yusinara spoke, that best of Brahmanas Galava, then applauded the monarch and gave him the maiden. And making Yusinara accept that damsel, Galava went into the woods. And like a righteous man enjoying the prosperity won by his deeds, Yusinara began to sport with and enjoy that damsel in valleys and dales of mountains, by fountains and falls of rivers, in mansions, delightful chambers, variegated gardens, forests and woods, agreeable places, and terraces of houses. And in due time, was born unto him a son of the splendor of the morning sun, who afterwards became an excellent king, celebrated by the name Sivi. And after the birth of that son, the Brahmana Galava came to Yusinara and taking back from him the maiden, went, "O king, to see the son of Vinata." Thus ends the 118th section in the Bhagavatyana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 119, Bhagavatyana Parva. Narada said, seeing Galava, Vinata's son, smilingly addressed him saying, "By good luck it is, O Brahmana, that I behold thee successful." Galava, however, hearing the words spoken by Gadura, informed him that a fourth part of the task was still unfinished. Gadura then, that foremost of all speakers, said unto Galava, "Do not make any endeavor to obtain the remaining 200, for it will not succeed. In days of yore, Richika sought at Kanyakavja Gari's daughter, Satyavati, for making her his wife. Thereupon Gari, O Galava, addressing the Rishi, said, "O Holy One, let 1,000 steeds of lunar brightness, each with 1 ear black of hue, be presented to me." Thus requested, Richika said, "So be it." And then wending his way to the great mart of steeds, Aswatirtha, in Varuna's abode, the Rishi obtained what he sought and gave them unto the king. Performing a sacrifice then of the name of Pundarika, that monarch gave away those steeds as dakshina unto the Brahmanas. The 3 kings to whom thou hadst applied had purchased those horses from the Brahmanas, each to the number of 200. The remaining 400, O best of Brahmanas, while being transported over the river, were taken by the Vitasta. Therefore, O Galava, thou canst never have that which is not to be had. Do thou then, O virtuous one, present unto Viswamitra this maiden as an equivalent for 200 steeds, along with the 600 thou hast already obtained. Thou wilt then, O best of Brahmanas, be freed from thy grief and crowned with success." Galava then saying, "So be it," and taking with him both the maiden and the steeds, went with Gadura in his company unto Viswamitra. And arrived in his presence, Galava said, "Here are 600 steeds of the kind demanded by thee. And this maiden is offered as an equivalent for the remaining 200. Let all these be accepted by thee." Upon this maiden have been begotten 3 virtuous sons by 3 royal sages. Let a 4th, foremost of all, be begotten upon her by thee. And thus let the number of steeds, 800, be regarded by thee as full, and let me also, being freed from thy debt, go and practice ascetic penances as I list." Viswamitra then, beholding Galava in the company of the bird and that highly beautiful maiden, said, "Why, O Galava, didst thou not give me this maiden before? 4 sons then, sanctifiers of my race, would all have been mine alone. I accept this maiden of thine for begetting upon her 1 son. As regards the steeds, let them graze in my asylum." Saying this, Viswamitra of great effulgence began to pass his time happily with her. And Madhavi bore him a son of the name of Ashtaka. And as soon as that son was born, the great Muni Viswamitra addressed him to both virtue and profit and gave him those 600 steeds. Ashtaka then went to a city, bright as the city of Soma. And Kusika's son Viswamitra also, having made over the damsel to his disciple, himself went into the woods. And Galava also with his friend Suparna, having in this way succeeded in giving his preceptor the fee he had demanded, with a cheerful heart addressed that maiden and said, "Thou hast borne a son who is exceedingly charitable, and another who is exceedingly brave, and a third who is devoted to truth and righteousness, and yet another who is a performer of great sacrifices. O beautiful maiden, thou hast by these sons saved not only thy father, but 4 kings and myself also. Go now, O thou of slender waist." Saying this, Galava dismissed Gadura that devourer of snakes, and returning the maiden unto her father, himself went into the woods. Thus ends the 119th section in the Bhagavatyana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 120, Bhagavatyana Parva. Narada said, King Yayati then, desirous again of disposing of his daughter in Swayamvara, went to a hermitage on the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna, taking Madhavi with him on a chariot, her person decked with garlands of flowers. And both Puru and Yadu followed their sister to that sacred asylum. And in that spot was assembled a vast concourse of Nagas and Takshas and human beings, of Gandharvas and animals and birds, and of dwellers of mountains and trees and forests, and of many inhabitants of that particular province. And the woods all around that asylum were filled with numerous rishis resembling Brahman himself. And while the selection had commenced of husband, that maiden of the fairest complexion, passing over all the bridegrooms there assembled, selected the forest as her lord. Descending from her chariot and saluting all her friends, the daughter of Yayati went into the forest, which is always sacred, and devoted herself to ascetic austerities. Reducing her body by means of fasts of various kinds and religious rites and rigid vow, she adopted the deer's mode of life. And subsisting upon soft and green grass blades, resembling the sprouts of lapis lazuli, and which were both bitter and sweet to the taste, and drinking the sweet, pure, cool, crystal and very superior water of sacred mountains streams, and wandering with the deer in forest destitute of lions and tigers, in deserts free from forest conflagration and in thick woods, that maiden, leading the life of a wild doe, earned great religious merit by the practice of brahmacharya austerities. Meanwhile, King Yayati, following the practice of kings before him, submitted to the influence of time, after having lived for many thousands of years. The progeny of 2 of his sons, those foremost of men, Puru and Yadu, multiplied greatly, and in consequence thereof, Nahusha's son won great respect both in this and the other world. O monarch, dwelling in heaven, King Yayati, resembling a great rishi, became an object of much regard and enjoyed the highest fruits of those regions. And after many thousands of years had passed away in great happiness, on one occasion while seated among the illustrious royal sages and great rishis, King Yayati, from folly, ignorance, and pride, mentally disregarded all the gods and rishis and all human beings. Thereat the divine Sakra, the slayer of Vala, at once read his heart. And those royal sages also addressed him, saying, Fie, fie. And beholding the son of Nahusha, the questions were asked, Who is this person? What king's son is he? Why is he in heaven? By what acts hath he won success? Where did he earn ascetic merit? For what hath he been known here? Who knoweth him? The dwellers of heaven, thus speaking of that monarch, asked one another these questions about Yayati, that ruler of men. And hundreds of heaven's charioteers and hundreds of those that kept heaven's gates and of those that were in charge of heaven's seats, thus questioned, all answered, We do not know him. And the minds of all were temporarily clouded, so that none recognized the king, and thereupon the monarch was soon divested of his splendor. Thus ends the 120th section in the Bhagavatyana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, Please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.